Welcome to Defiance of Silence. I'm Valerie, your host, a veteran, nurse, and a survivor. This is a space for sacred witnessing, for stories often carried quietly, and for the people who hold them, for survivors, healers, and witnesses. Here we stand against the silence that isolates and honor the silence that allows us to truly be heard. Some episodes in this season will focus on sexual trauma and forensic realities. Others will explore moral injury, grief, and the cost of caring deeply in a world that can wound. You're invited to listen at your own pace, pause when you need to, and take what serves you and leave the rest. A gentle note before we begin. This podcast includes conversations about trauma and abuse. Please listen with care and honor your well-being. Thank you for being here and witnessing today's conversation. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're joining me today for this conversation. My guest today has 10 years in the mental health field. Her name is Victoria Garcia. She is a warm and down-to-earth therapist. She specializes in EMDR. I'm excited to talk about this today. Also, cognitive behavioral therapy. She's passionate about helping people untangle the past, find their footing, and create a life that actually works for them. She's a homeschool and neurodiverse mom. Victoria brings plenty of real-world empathy and creativity and flexibility to her work. Her approach blends science, heart, humor, and helps clients heal deeply, grow confidently, and live with more ease and authenticity. I'm so excited for you to meet Victoria. But before we get started, as usual, let's just ground ourselves. So we're going to take a deep breath. Just notice where your feet are. Notice where your hands are. Notice that you have a voice and that you're able to use your voice. Da 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 da. Welcome, Victoria.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing that fun little thing with me. It's important for people to know that healing isn't always, stick in the mud serious. Like, you can have fun.
Yes.
And you can be grounded and still be fun.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's kind of, what I feel like I bring to the table, along with other things, of course, but as a therapist, just, yes, there's times to be serious, but also like, it's okay to have a little fun too.
Mm-hmm. That's really the only way that I could get through a lot of my healing, was to be able to have fun with it and express joy. And the more I healed, the more joy kind of just came along. And like, you get those spontaneous, like, I'm feeling really wound up today. And I love that you were just like right on board with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited. So tell me a little bit about how you found yourself in the mental health community in this field.
It's something that I've kind of had my eye on really since I was, a teenager, a kid. Really, when I was a kid, I had this thought of like, oh, if I could like talk to people about their problems, that would be a cool job, not realizing it was a real job at the time. And as I got a little older and realized like, oh, people actually do this and they get paid for it. And it's like, I didn't just make this thing up. So it's just always been there in the back of my mind. And then once, you have to like, you get into college and you have to like make a decision about the rest of your life, right? I had several different paths I wanted to go down, and I was like, okay, what's the one thing that just in any setting that I'm in, that just comes natural to me? And it was always just talking with people about their problems and, helping them as best I could, at the time without any training.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's just been definitely the right path for me. I feel like it comes very natural. I love listening to people and connecting.
That's beautiful. Thank you. I'm glad that you're doing this for others. You do have such a warm presence about you, just in talking with you in the last few minutes. Yeah, it's true. It's really true. I find that you can spot when somebody's really not genuine. And I think that we might weave this into our conversation today, just about therapy isn't a one size fits all. So sometimes you do have to change therapists, and it's not personal.
Absolutely.
And I've had to do the same. And so I think that's important too. And it's not that maybe that therapist isn't genuine is just maybe not a good fit for you. So I think it's
Hmm.
important to know that too.
And for any people pleasers out there,
Oh
your
yeah,
therapist they don't take it to heart, or they
they
shouldn't
should.
anyway,
Yeah,
right? If
yeah,
they're doing good work, if they're a good therapist, they will expect that some people just will not be a good fit, or they won't be a good fit for them,
yeah.
and that's okay. So like, please, if you need to break up with your therapist, do it. It's okay. We're not gonna
Hmm.
like go sit in a corner and cry over it. We're hoping the best for you.
Yeah, that's really important to know. I think I know for me, it was like, do I write her a letter and say that I'm breaking up with you? Or do I ghost her? Like, what do I do?
P.S. I love you.
Yes. And it was very weird because she was such a nice person, but I
Yeah.
just couldn't find like that trust with her. And it really was not anything I could put my finger on. She was
Hmm.
lovely, but I couldn't get to like the heart of the issue, or at least I was stuck, or I don't know. It just wasn't the right fit, is what I determined.
Yeah.
But I totally ghosted her because I didn't know what to do. And I realized like that was a long time ago. And my people pleasing self was very much worried about
Hmm.
if I told her, like, I don't think this is working out, like, what would happen? Nothing would happen. Nothing. But it took me a long time to
No.
realize that. So,
They might
um,
even go, here's some other people that like you
yeah,
might like
yeah,
better. Yeah.
yeah. But like when you're in it and the tunnel is just
Yeah.
like right on you, you don't really have the clarity, right? So, anyways,
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you shared that with our listeners. So something that I want to just talk about in a little bit more detail is that you're certified in EMDR. And I recently had listeners, you'll
So, correction,
remember,
real quick. I'm EMDR trained. There is a
trained.
certification. I don't have the
Oh,
certification,
okay.
but I am EMDR trained and have been doing EMDR for quite a while now.
I do understand that. Thank you for the correction. And there's a lot of things in healthcare that you can be trained but not certified in. I have
Yes.
similar things for myself too. So thank you for that. Um, but I will say that we just recently had another guest. If you listened to previous episodes, Lauren talked about different therapy modalities, and she mentions
Hmm.
EMDR. And she said that she does not do that. But I thought that the listeners would really enjoy talking to somebody and listening to somebody who did, and we could
Hmm.
get more information about it. So just tell us all the things. Like, what is it? What does EMDR stand for?
Sure. So it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So big long term for I'm going to move your eyes back and forth until you feel better. It's a different type of therapy. And so let's take like trauma, for example. If you come into your therapist and you're only doing talk therapy, so like cognitive behavioral or, person-centered, you're going to spend a whole lot of time rehashing the same traumatic event over and over and over again. And this is something that, you may be in therapy for the same thing months or years. It really just depends. And with EMDR, in doing bilateral stimulation, which can be eye movements going, back and forth, or you can do tapping or have, an auditory, something going back and forth in your ears. That stimulates both sides of your brain. And in doing that, you're able to process it not only from a very conscious place, but also a very subconscious place, which you don't get in talk therapy, right? You're all in your thinking brain in talk therapy. And it's good and you can do good work in that space, but EMDR just it reaches a deeper place that you can't get to.
Yeah. And is that so when you say it gets to like the subconscious, is that why when you have this therapy done, like for me, I felt surprised a lot of times by, oh, I didn't know that was there. Like,
Yes.
so that's what you're talking about. That's coming up
Yes.
from the subconscious. Okay.
Yes.
And I think that
There's
scares people. They're like, well, I wasn't expecting that, and you're
a lot
feeling
of
it in your
time, yeah, yeah,
body.
yeah. A lot of times they kind of laugh about it because
Mm-hmm.
it'll be something that may just be completely unreal. It seems very unrelated, but it's made an association. It's emotionally charged in the same way as whatever you're processing. And so a good example is whenever I went through the training, we have to bring something to the training, right, to process through. And for me, I have a phobia of frogs. I've had it for a really long time. It got worse as I got older. And so as we were going through this, long story short, I ended up making a connection to me standing at uh, my grandmother's casket at her funeral when I was really little. And I was terrified that she was going to wake up and pop up.
Oh,
And it's
wow.
that same emotional charge as the action of frogs hopping.
Mm,
And making that connection was super weird,
that is
right?
weird.
I
Wow.
was like, what in the world is happening? Because my grandmother's, passing was, I mean, probably a little traumatic because it was a big event, but it's not something that I even would have recognized. I still held on to anything, significant about. Um, so that was a really interesting thing. So some people, whenever these things come up for them in session or even outside of session, they'll go, well, I thought of this red balloon, but I have no clue where that came from. And I'll have them pay attention to that just for a little bit. And usually they do find the connection or they don't, but they notice something different in their body.
Hmm.
They're feeling something different. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does actually. And I'm curious about your thoughts because for some people doing EMDR may not be the right time or timing. I know there's
Hmm.
probably so many things that go into deciding who would benefit from it, and I would love for us to talk about that next. But I just was thinking about initially, I only have my own experience, and the first few times I tried it, I left there so angry because
Hmm.
she kept asking me things like, "Where are you feeling this in your body?" And I'm like, "Nowhere, nowhere."
Nowhere and
Where?
everywhere.
Nowhere. I don't know what's happening. This is stupid. It's
Yeah.
just like really, really frustrating for a thinker like me to try to get out of my head and into my body. And I recently had a guest, Haley, who shared a lot about her EMDR experience. And she said her therapist could immediately drop her into her body. I mean,
Hmm.
just like that, immediately drop her into her body, and she would be able to process where this is coming from. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And when she mentioned that, I thought I really need to have a deeper discussion about this because I know I'm not the only one that doesn't fully understand this. So thank you for
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that's actually really, for some people, is really hard for them to. I was just talking about this earlier in a different meeting. It's really difficult for some people to be in tune with their body and what their
Mm-hmm.
body is trying to tell them. And I like to let clients know our bodies, they will know when we're anxious. They're going to know when we're really struggling with something before we know it in our head, right? So if
Yeah.
you think about it as like when you're hungry, usually your stomach is going to send you all sorts of signals that you need to eat. And then you might remember, oh yeah, I haven't eaten yet today. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. It's really interesting because when you've had trauma and specifically, sexual trauma, which is the basis for most of what we're discussing on
Hmm.
on this podcast and these stories, you're so disconnected from your body and
Yes.
you don't I say you, I didn't know that. I didn't know. I'm like, well, of course I'm not disconnected from my body. I have a headache. I can feel that I have a headache,
Hmm.
but I could never understand the language around what do you mean I'm not in my body? Like I feel my body, but it was like this gray cloud of just being fearful and probably some shame of like being afraid to say, I don't know what you're talking about because I have to know
Right.
everything. And it was so I realized I got in my own way later.
Hmm.
I was in my own way. So I would hope that a listener would hear that and go, maybe I should give this a try again or be more open minded because I'm glad
Hmm.
that I did. The first 3 times I did, it was like, this is not for me. It's not for everyone. And that's why I was like, well, I'm the everyone that it's not for. But later, when I had a little more understanding, I had read The Body Keeps the Score, and
Hmm.
that book messed me up. And I was like, I really don't understand this. Um, and since then, I've read it a couple more times and I've gotten great benefit from it. So I
Yeah,
would highly recommend reading that when and if you're ready, and maybe alongside being in some therapy because it is
absolutely.
so much to process. Um, so, can we go back 1 second and just maybe who are some clients or clientele categories that would not benefit from EMDR?
So, n not necessarily like certain categories of people, because it's going to be individual, right?
Okay.
But the person does need to be in the right space for it. And so there is prep work that goes into it ahead of actually doing the eye movements and all that jazz. So one big thing is seeing where they are with dissociation, right? And a lot of people either uh talk about it like it's something crazy people do, right?
Right.
Dissociating, or just zoning out, right? Oh, yeah, I zone out. And that is part of it, but there's a bunch of different ways that people can dissociate. And so we do measure that ahead of time. And there's if they're above a certain score, then the therapist knows that this may not be the best time.
I
We
see.
need to build up some
Mm-hmm.
other skills. We need to, do some work on maybe getting in tune with their body a little bit more, and that sort of thing before actually going into processing. Because what happens is if they're already at like a baseline, really high dissociation, when you go into EMDR, they may dissociate very quickly, and
Yeah.
then you're not able to really do processing work. So that's one of the really big important pieces. And then also, if looking at their personal life, if they're going through a major divorce and their kids are being taken away from them or something like that, not a good time for EMDR because they're going through shit right
Right.
now, right? We
Right.
need to
Exactly.
deal with what's happening in the present. And then once they're in a more stable place in their personal life where
Yeah.
they have the emotional capacity to do EMDR, then we can do it. But there's not really, I don't think there's a category
Okay.
of individuals. Obviously, you want to do EMDR when they're sober, right? So
Yeah,
making sure
for
that they're
sure.
not drunk or high coming to
Yeah, for
session
sure.
and trying to do that. Because again, it goes with, basically not being in your body.
Yeah, that's very powerful actually. So sounds like your therapist has to be pretty in tune with you. Um,
Yes.
so so I get a little bit leery because I have had friends say, "Oh, I'm going to see this therapist and we're going to do EMDR." And I've seen her one time and now we're going to start doing EMDR. And to me that seems a little wild that you could meet a therapist one time and be able to just dive in like that. But if they're ready, I mean maybe that is okay. It's
Well,
just
as
wild to
long
me.
as long as they're doing the prep work ahead of time. And
Mhm.
so there's sometimes I have clients who they either are working with another therapist on other stuff in their life, or they have
Ah,
worked with another
yeah.
therapist and they're being referred to me strictly for EMDR.
Mhm.
Um, Usually in the first, consultation or whatever, I kind of get a feel for what's going on, if another therapist has other issues handled.
Yeah.
And I can just
Yeah.
take the reins for EMDR, do some prep work. So that is a possibility. Um, but it's that's for me not the norm. I get a lot of clients who come to me for, they've never seen a therapist and their life
Yeah.
is falling apart and they've got
Yeah.
trauma and all the
That's what we
things.
do. Yeah.
Um,
Uh okay. So, backing up just a little bit. So when a person has trauma and what we say, and we've said on this podcast before, is that the trauma is stuck in their nervous system. So
mhm.
what does that mean, being stuck in the nervous system?
So you get acclimated to the environment that you're in, right? So let's pretend that you are in maybe an abusive relationship, right? Where you're being, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is going to get used to the flinching at certain movements, or, the hypervigilance around you with different sounds or different movements, or right, and it's probably something you're not even aware of, and that kind of stuff sticks with you for a very long time. And when your body, it just already makes those associations so quickly, um that's a good way to notice that, like, maybe you've been traumatized, or
Mm-hmm.
it's stuck in your nervous system. That's a pretty easy way to do that. Um, does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So so when someone's out of, say, or they realize, like, all of a sudden they realize they've had childhood trauma or they've had some sort of trauma that they want to work through. Is EMDR issue specific, or is this kind of just a generalized, you go into it and you're like, let's see what we find? Or are you
Mm-mm.
going in with a certain thing in mind, like this is what I need to process?
Yeah, it's so in the planning phase beforehand, we really do a lot of digging to find the biggest piece is the negative belief that they have about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can be, we've got to do a little bit of digging for it. Other times, it may just be at the forefront of their brain and they're like, yeah, this is it. Um, so let's say that, like, okay, going back to you've been in an abusive relationship and they're wanting to know why. Why am I in this abusive relationship? How did I get here? Um, we can trace that back to, maybe something in childhood. So
Mm-hmm.
let's do a scan. We usually try to find the first time that you had this emotional charge, um, the worst time you've had this emotional charge, and the most recent. The therapist, for me, I usually will list those out once we find them. And then it's really a collaboration of where do we start, right? So sometimes starting with usually the first is what we want to start with, because if we can clear out the first, in theory, everything else goes with it, which
Mm-hmm.
is really cool when it happens like that. It's
Yeah.
super beautiful. But sometimes they're not okay with going to the first thing. They want to process the most recent. And as therapists, I'm going to follow what the client wants.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, so we find the situation that we want to work on, and then we dig for the negative belief. And this can be something like, I'm not good enough. Um, it's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
I'm helpless. Those are
Mm-hmm.
ones I hear really often. Um, and then being able to, at the end of the EMDR journey, for them to have the positive belief of, usually it's the opposite. So like, I am good enough, or, I'm awesome. And sometimes I even have clients who, whenever they get to that point, they'll go, that feels a little like I'm full of myself. Like,
Yeah.
I am worthy, or I am awesome,
Yeah.
or I'm whatever.
I somewhat had
Um,
that experience myself. It was like, should I be saying this?
right. Yeah. And usually then we process through that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's taking this negative belief, and you're not just like, it's not just affirmation saying the positive thing over
Uh-huh.
and over again, right? It's where you actually feel it.
Yeah.
You can believe it without trying to really like convince yourself or shove it down your throat. It's a belief that you feel
Mm-hmm.
in your core. Unlike, pointing to my heart, because you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting because for so long, and I know sometimes I still get caught up in this, but it's like, I'm going to say this to myself every day until I believe it. And that really
Hmm.
doesn't work for me personally. It wasn't working because I could say all the things and write all the things on my mirror, but I was still at the
Hmm.
core. When I looked in the mirror, it was like, I'm saying it, but I don't know that I feel it. So when
Yeah.
you make that switch, and it's really weird how to explain how that happens, but um, it can be very, very freeing. And for me to have been so afraid of EMDR in the beginning,
Hmm.
um, can you talk a little bit about somebody who's maybe really detached from their emotions? Like they don't
Hmm.
know how to name them or what they're feeling. So that was a frustration for me. I was like, well, what do you feel about this? And I'm like, I told you I don't know because I don't
Yeah.
know what I don't know how to tell you that I don't know what I'm feeling. Like, what does that process look like?
Yeah, that would be like skill building beforehand,
Uh-huh.
right? And so being able to, first of all, name your feeling in whatever words
Mm-hmm.
match for you, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm feeling, very anxious or depressed, or,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
It can be, yeah, I've felt like crap all day.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's going to signal something to the therapist of like, okay, let's reflect that back. You feel like crap. What feels like crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that's whenever the therapist asks a lot of quote unquote dumb questions,
Yeah.
right? Because really, it's not about you communicating it to us. It's like giving you the opportunity to dig a minute to
Mm-hmm.
see what you find.
Yeah.
Um, and then I do a lot of like I don't want to say somatic because I don't do somatic therapy, but I do try to get them into their body a little bit more. So just even paying attention to, just if they are feeling tightness in their chest, right? They
Mm-hmm.
might be able to feel that, or they might say,
Yeah.
I've got, feels like I have an elephant sitting on my chest. It's like, okay, great. Has there been any stress lately?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of tying it to, oh yeah, I had a whole lot of stuff happening at work and now I feel,
Yeah.
oh, right. Just trying to make some of those
Yeah.
connections for them. But that's a lot of skill building before you do
I see.
any
Yeah.
EMDR.
Yeah. Because I feel like you kind of have to have a little bit of language for to be able to sit through the EMDR and
Hmm.
understand what you're even doing. And for me, it was a lot of practicing of noticing. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay. So I had to learn literally how to notice. So I
Hmm.
would be walking around and say, I'm noticing that I have this lump in my throat. And then
Yeah.
I'd say, where is this lump coming from? What are you trying to tell me? Like it felt so silly, but
Hmm.
I promise you, listeners, if you can do that silly stuff, like it builds, like what Victoria is saying, it just builds the skill to be able to understand and have the language to complete
Yeah.
the
It's
EMDR portion of the therapy.
Yeah, it's practicing a lot of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And our society is not really great at being mindful and like taking a minute to
Nope.
like engage your senses and all the things. And so
Yeah.
having that practice and slowing down and like taking a
Mm-hmm.
breath,
Yeah.
noticing, what you're feeling physically in your
Yep.
body, and then at some point practicing that enough to where you can go, okay, what do I feel
Mm-hmm.
emotionally? Something that does help sometimes, and I've noticed this with several lots of different clients, is having them picture like a color. So when we do the body scan, I usually will teach a body scan to the clients like first session. Um, and sometimes having that color. So it's like, okay, they're like, I have a headache. Okay, well, what color would that be? Usually it's like red or orange or
Mm-hmm.
black,
Yeah.
something. It's like, okay, well, we're going to notice that color, right? See where that color goes, see if it dissipates, and then where's the maybe the part of your body that feels the calmest,
Mm-hmm.
that's not fidgety, that's not hurting. They'll
Yeah.
name something and we'll assign that color. And that helps for some of the clients who are very visual. They can just recognize where the colors are, even if we don't have the words yet for what emotion is happening.
Mm-hmm. That's really smart actually to think of a color. Um, because for visual people, like, and it was hard to say, like, oh, I'm feeling this in my stomach or I'm feeling this in my,
Hmm.
but a color, yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense actually. Now, if somebody, excuse me, is coming to do EMDR, um, and they, just lean in and they've like got this down and you've got the setting and the set and everything is there. Like typically how long does it take? How many sessions do people take to kind of get to the core of the issue? Or can EMDR open up other issues that you kind of set aside and go, we're going to get to that later?
Yeah. So there is no, like, just putting this, prefacing it with this, there is no set amount of EMDR sessions, right?
Okay.
So I can't say, like, oh, it's one session or it's 10 sessions. It's really going to vary. What I've found with the clients that I've worked with over the years, uh, majority is like 2 sessions for
Wow.
like a really, and that's a usually a significant traumatic event. Other ones, they, we've had to go back to the drawing board and maybe we didn't have the exact right words or the exact
Yeah.
right event and reassess because it's taking longer, but really pretty quickly. I don't know, what was your experience, if you don't mind?
Sure. So I don't know if I was clear on this before. I can't remember if we were recording when we were talking about this. I did like 3 sessions or so with a therapist through the VA that I was seeing, and she was wonderful, but it just wasn't connecting for me.
Hmm.
And I know now after more time that the groundwork just really wasn't probably set in well for
Yeah.
me. So I don't think I was ready. It just wasn't a good fit. And that's when I left kind of angry and just like, I don't know
Hmm.
what is happening. So it wasn't a great experience. And I walked away from that going, yeah, I don't think that's for me. I'm going to try all these
Hmm.
other things, which, you know, different strokes for different folks. Some things really, really helped me, but they helped me to build that language that I didn't have prior. So
Yeah.
without even meaning to, I started to get that um, muscle working, like, oh, these are my feelings. This is what I'm noticing. This is where I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling it in my body. I was reading books, listening to podcasts, just doing other things and seeing, just basically talk therapy. And when she mentioned EMDR that time, I went, I think I'll give it a try again. And we really only had to do like 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Um, but I was able to actually sit still and feel the thing. In the first session, I just burst into tears,
Yep.
not because of anything that came up, but for the fact that I could actually do it and feel compared to the very first time
Yeah.
when I was like, she's asking me to feel. And I'm just saying things because I think that's what I'm supposed to say. And I'm thinking
Right.
that's what, and that completely defeated the purpose. So when I tried it for real and really just leaned into it, was like, okay, I'm going to try this and I'm going to do it. I was overcome with emotion because I could feel it, not even
Yeah.
because of what was coming up. It was more just like, I'm doing it. This is happening. So it was
Yeah.
wonderful.
That's
And
great.
she's like, okay, we need to focus, but it's like, but for me to be able to sit still in that, because I know I'm not alone in this. Some of the things that we do to numb and not feel is just the staying the busyness, like
Mm-hmm.
the millions of appointments and the volunteer and the going here and going there and taking this phone call and doing this thing. And it's all good things, but there's so much of it that I might not be drinking alcohol, or I might not be using drugs, or I might not be, doing something nefarious, but I am avoiding my life
Mm-hmm.
in all these other ways. And that's where I was at. I wasn't really doing anything that was causing,
Yeah.
um, I mean, I was causing pain to my family just from not being present, but I was not aware of that. So, not being
Mm-hmm.
mindful, not being present, like that was my numbing, was just, oh, you need me? Great. I don't have to look at myself. And so
Yep.
there was a lot of that had to break down before I could really even agree to do the EMDR and realize that like I had that going on. It was, you have too much on your plate. I'm like, but I can't help it. I got to do all these things. And so
Yep.
in hindsight, and I see it now in certain relationships and just observing life and people, and I don't make up stories about them. I don't know how they have it. I'm not trying to do that, but it's just observations now. I see myself in so many others, and I'm like, if you could just try this, it might help
Mm-hmm.
you. And so I can't sing the praises enough for EMDR. And it is freaking weird at first, like I'm not gonna lie.
It's weird.
It's real weird. And I don't know everybody's situation or experience with EMDR, but something that was devastating to me, because I think, like most people, when you first start going to therapy, they start asking about your childhood, and you're like, that has nothing to do with this. Why are you asking me
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm.
And you find out, I'm sure that most therapists are rolling their eyes knowing that answer is coming, because we don't think it has anything to do with why we're stuck now. But when you start to take the layers down and you realize that it is, when I finally became open to that, like all of that kind of happened at the same time with the EMDR. So I feel like there was just a lot of like opening that was happening. And it was a beautiful experience. But the first time through EMDR, she was like, picture yourself, it was the specific event that we were working with. Picture yourself as, whatever age. I think she said like 7 or something. And picture yourself at this house, and we're picturing it, and she's like, now go over to her and give her a hug. And like the
Mm.
the deadness in the eyes of my little, I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And it just, whoo, it wrecked me, because I was like, something's wrong with her. She does not want anything to do with me. Why? And it it really hurt to look at that. Like,
Yeah.
why is this 7-year-old not want anything to do with me now? Like, what did I ever do to her? It was
Mm-hmm.
really hard for me to um and then I left the therapy like, well, that doesn't work. And but that was probably the best thing that could have happened, because it opened up that door for me to look at that 7-year-old that now I have a picture of, next to my meditation spot. And
Oh
I look at
yeah.
her every day and I'm like, I got you. Like this, we did this together.
Yeah.
So, like, I hope that that encourages a listener or somebody that maybe wouldn't have considered it before, to
Mm-hmm.
at least be open to the possibility that it could do something for you, even if it just opens the door to even more deeper connection to yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
And a good therapist is if they are talking with the client or they sense hesitation about doing EMDR, they're not going to force you.
right.
Right. They're gonna so something that I like to do is if they're up for doing like a practice round, just so they can sense, what the eye movements are or,
Yeah.
hearing the sound or whatever, and just using it as a tool, because you can also use it to calm, not just process stuff.
Yes.
And so using it as a way to, just sit with it, be calm, and then if they're still like, yeah, no, we're like, okay, fine. Or you can target the resistance head on if the client is okay with that. So you're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, you've had a therapist that you didn't really jive with before, and there's some lingering feelings about that in EMDR. Let's just try to process that. Let's just see what comes up there. And if the client is okay with that,
Mm-hmm.
usually you can process through that. And I've done that with a lot of people before, and then the door is open
Yeah.
and they're ready to go. Um, so having a someone who is skilled in what they do is important.
Yeah. You mentioned something there that was interesting about um I don't know if I can articulate this question. Hold on, let me think about this for a second. So if somebody is doing EMDR, you said for calming. So
Uh-huh.
let's say um and I've used this myself as well. So once somebody say has worked through whatever that issue was that they were trying to process, what does it look like post EMDR if they've processed it through properly when that feeling comes up, um, or that trigger, I guess really isn't for me, isn't really a trigger anymore. That's the whole
Right.
point, right?
Right.
So now when that memory comes up or there's a reference to this thing, sometimes it's a big thing and you can't avoid it,
Mm-hmm.
which is important too. You can't avoid all these triggers. Like you've got to figure
Mm-hmm.
out how to work through them. Um, Post EMDR, what does that look like for somebody who now has come through the other side of, say, an assault? Like, for me, that was one of the things that I had to reprocess. And it was one of the hardest things I ever did in my life. But now, when the memory of that comes up, I can speak of it now as it's just what happened. This isn't a
Right.
giant story. This is what happened, and these are the facts of it. And I can share openly about it without being re traumatized. So, what about EMDR allows that to happen? Is that even something? Am I asking this right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So the whole goal is that, right, you're still gonna have the memory. That's not gonna change. Um, but it's going to the goal is that it will decrease or take away the emotional charge that's there so that you can think about this event, right? You can bring it up in your mind, or if there is, a quote unquote trigger, you're not going to have a reaction or as big of
Right.
a reaction emotionally as you would have before,
Yeah.
which is that's the goal, because if you're going around and there's different triggers happening, or you're in a situation that's very, could be similar to a situation you were in before, you're automatically going to feel danger, right? You're going to
Mm-hmm.
feel all of this anxiety that's coming up, and with EMDR it just takes that away.
And so, in that, in saying that, so say, for example, you experienced something that was traumatic, um, say it was a physical assault or something like that.
Hmm.
And then so you've moved through that, you don't have the emotional charge. I want to be clear that it doesn't mean that that part of your nervous system is shut off. So if you were to get assaulted again or run
Right.
into a situation, your body will still go into fight,
Yes.
flight, or freeze.
Yes.
It will still protect you. You will still be
Yes.
able to respond. Because I think that was something that was um, brought up somewhere else that I was listening before. And I thought, I never thought about that, that it doesn't just necessarily shut that off, that you're not going to
Correct.
all of a sudden have nervous system responses or trauma responses. Um, and I can give a personal example, and I don't know if somebody will resonate with this or not, but for a long, long time, so part of my trauma, and I've shared in my story previously, was that I was held for 48 hours in a home, and that I was unable to escape. And I was
Mm.
blocked into like a bathroom, for a period of time. So anytime, and of course, those memories, I push those down, right? So we're not going to think about those. But over time, I got to where if there was any chance that a door was going to be locked or I did not have an escape route, I would
Hmm.
be losing my shit. Like,
Right.
not outwardly, it was all internal, and would think like, you're crazy, you don't need to be reacting like this, it's just a door, it's just, but I could never figure out where that was coming from until I did the EMDR. And now I don't have the panic if somebody shuts the door or locks it, or even if
Right.
for a second, if I think I don't have an out, I can pause now and go, I do, it's okay, I'm going to give it 30 seconds before I freak out. Like,
Yep.
I'm not locked in here, it's okay. And now it's just second nature. It's not even something I think about anymore. It
Yep.
doesn't even come into my mind when there's a shut or locked, bathroom door. So
That's a
there's,
great example.
yeah, I mean, there's just so much, and I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Like, that's not even something I give thought to anymore, and that's been a few years now. So there's just so much behind EMDR that I want people to just know it's not super weird all the time. Like, there are powerful things. But to go back to the calming, this is what I was also going to say is, um, is there something similar? Like, if you're listening to bilateral stimulation music, is that, that's something that I like to do. You can just find it on like Spotify or YouTube
Yep.
and just pick binaural. I think it's called binaural stimulation music. And that's really calming for when you are stressed about something and you just want to sit and chill out. Like, it really does do something to your brain. I can't explain what it does to your brain. Maybe you can,
Hmm.
but what is it about that calming when you're not actually doing EMDR therapy? I'm not sitting with a therapist, but say I'm sitting on the couch with the eye mask on and I've got bilateral music on.
Hmm.
It's really powerful, and I can't explain exactly how it works, but it
I
does
can't
help.
either, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah. It's just,
And a lot of it with EMDR is I kind of look at it as more of an art than a science. I mean, yes, there is a lot of science
sure.
to it, but it's also like our brains are so freaking cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so being able to use, bilateral music or sounds or whatever for calming, the key is that it's slow, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So in order to get into a processing phase, you're going to go at a certain speed. And so that's something that the therapist is always aware of, is how you're responding to the speed of, the eye movements or the sounds. Um, and being able to adjust when needed. And so if you're going to use it for calming, you want it to be fairly slow. So
Yeah.
some of them that I've listened to are like the nature sounds where it's
Yeah.
like you have the ocean going in one
Yes. That's
ear
my
and
favorite one
out.
is the ocean.
Yes. It's
Yes.
like the ocean is in my
Yes.
head.
Like, I have
Um
sunscreen on and I'm
yeah.
outside. That's what's happening. That's what
I
I'm
am
listening
one
to.
with the sea.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so that one is really nice because it's so slow and finding the ones that like for me there's certain ones that are like too high pitched or
Uh-huh.
something. So finding one that like
Yeah.
fits for you and but just making sure it's slow. So even if you're just doing like the butterfly hug where you've got your arms crossed and you're tapping yourself,
Yep.
just doing it super slow. If you get to a point where it sounds like a blinker, you're too fast,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So doing it slow is going to help calm, and you can use that at any time. So
Yeah.
whenever I tell my clients like that, this is something they can use outside of session, but I just emphasize to go slow.
Yeah. That's really um a nice tip and trick that hopefully somebody will pick up today and go, oh, I'm going to try that. It really, for me, I like to have an eye mask. And I mean, you don't have to have your eyes closed to do it, but I do like to have an eye mask. And it's kind of just like my Zen space where I can put that on and just take 5 minutes and put on the ocean. And it goes in one ear and literally just goes through. You have to have nice headphones on
Hmm.
to do it, but it's extremely beneficial when I'm feeling a little bit wound up. Um, and so when somebody, this is kind of a random question I just thought of while we were talking. If somebody is wanting to do EMDR and they've got an issue or that core belief about themselves,
Hmm.
and they you figure out what it is and they do the EMDR, I'm assuming this is probably going to sound silly saying out loud, but if somebody's coming to therapy and wanting to do EMDR for issues that are not theirs, and the reason I'm bringing this up is for example. We talk a lot on this um, podcast in this community, in this space about holding space for others and, being a sacred witness for other people. But if we don't have the ability to take care of ourselves well, then we're carrying these burdens for other people. So somebody who, say, has experienced vicarious trauma,
Hmm.
um, like healthcare workers or first responders. So
Hmm.
if it wasn't a direct trauma to them, does EMDR still work?
So are you talking about like they've witnessed something that's
Yeah,
happened? Yeah.
yeah, for example, like first responders, or even like I do same nursing, and
Yeah.
over time, we see a lot of things. So is EMDR something that is beneficial if it's not a direct necessarily
Absolutely.
belief about yourself? It is. Okay.
So what happens is there will be a negative belief,
Okay.
okay? And that those are the times where usually it takes some digging to
Mm,
get to it.
hmm.
But something that has come up is like, I could have done more,
Yeah.
or I wish I had done more, or,
Yeah. I
I am
couldn't
weak,
save
or I
them.
was weak. Yeah. So there is a negative belief there.
Okay.
But sometimes you got to dig for it because they're like, well, it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't do anything. But once you start asking questions, usually that kind of stuff will come out. But yeah, EMDR, there's lots, I know some therapists who specialize in EMDR specifically for first responders and healthcare
Awesome.
workers. And
Hmm.
it's super important. I think that that's a great population for EMDR for sure.
Wonderful. So what does someone expect like after an EMDR session? What do you expect for them? Can you prepare somebody what that might feel like when they go
Hmm.
home?
Well, one thing that I hear a lot is immediately after a session is that they feel tired or fatigued, because your brain's doing a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
And so I usually will, tell them that, to take care of themselves right after session, right? So do something that's calming, disconnect from their phone or whatever their
Hmm.
vice is. Um, but then also, so throughout the week, because usually I'm seeing EMDR clients weekly. So it's like throughout the week, your brain is still processing, even if we're not in session.
Right.
And so they may notice things that are weird. They may have, different memories that pop up. They may have dreams that are kind of weird, or they might even notice something positive. So, like, maybe a trigger for them was their dogs barking all the time, and now they're like, huh, oh, that doesn't really bother me so much. That's
Yeah.
kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of noticing some of those things throughout the week outside of session. And sometimes those things that's where we start the next session is, hey, I had this
Hmm.
really crazy dream, and they feel it's emotionally charged.
Yeah.
And you can process through that if needed.
Yeah. Is there any way for somebody? I'm glad you mentioned actually the memories and the dreams, because that was something that was a surprise to me. I didn't really have dreams necessarily, but I would just be driving and be like, where did that come from? Like I would just remember
You're like,
something.
what the hell?
Yeah. But over time, after doing enough sessions, I was able to like almost process it on my own, like
Yeah,
without having to go do the EMDR. So is that an expected kind of thing too? Like,
possibly. Yeah.
I mean, it was, and these weren't big things, but as they would come up, I'm like, hmm. So I could question myself, where am I feeling this? Where is this coming up for me? And kind of just, um, and then mention it obviously in the therapy session, and decide then, is this something I really need to
Yeah.
dig after? Or is this something I'm okay with where it's at? Like, is this good enough?
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed is they'll come back for, session two or session three or whatever, and their brain is kind of processed all the way through it on its own. And so we'll go through, I'll do all the questions and checks to make sure that it's,
Mhm.
that they're solid. And then there's an installation phase at the very end. So like okay, you're at a zero disturbance level. And so let's pair up the memory with your positive belief, and we'll do a few calming eye movements to just
Yeah.
like, we're going to solidify it. But yeah, that can totally happen.
So can EMDR be done virtually, or does it have to be done in person?
I only do virtual. So
Okay.
there's an app for that. um,
Well, I didn't know that.
there's an app for everything. Um, But yeah, it's a like a little blue dot. I actually prefer doing it virtual because on the little app, I have so much control over things. I can control the speed. I can make
Yeah.
the little ball different colors.
Hmm.
We can do auditory, so I have different sounds I can choose from. I can make it go in
Interesting.
different
I
directions.
didn't
Yeah,
know that.
there's
So
a
they're
lot of
just looking at
control.
the screen and looking at the dots on the
Hmm.
screen that you're putting up there.
Yeah,
That
it just
seems,
has to be a big enough screen, so they
yeah,
can't do it on their phone, but
yeah.
it's got to be, a laptop or iPad or something.
That seems less weird to me actually than in person because in person to me felt real weird.
It's a little awkward.
It was a little awkward. And I was like,
You're
maybe
like, I'm gonna
virtual.
get up real close and wave my hand in front of your face for a minute.
Yeah. And like, I'm like, what did you eat for lunch? You smell like Chick-fil-A. Like your hands smell like Chick-fil-A.
I
Like,
had some onions and garlic right
and
before.
then you're thinking like, I don't want to be rude, but your hands smell like Chick-fil-A. So the virtual is
Uh,
sounding real good right now. Um,
yeah, virtual is kind of cool. I enjoy it. I'll usually do like, the session before, we're
yeah,
checking all the technology things
yeah,
because you know how that goes, just to make sure it's all gonna work. But yeah, I've
that's really
enjoyed it.
cool. So, are you currently taking new clients right now? So, if anybody wanted to contact you and
Yeah.
potentially maybe check out some EMDR?
Yeah, so I do, regular talk therapy for, a variety of issues. I do EMDR as well, for traumatic experiences or just, phobias,
Mm-hmm.
just anxiety in general that's just debilitating. And I'm doing assessments for autism and ADHD for adults.
Okay.
And I'm doing that. I'm trying to provide it at the most affordable price that I can. So
Yeah, it's
really,
definitely difficult to
it
find
is.
that.
Um, and I don't take insurance. And so I'm trying to really find the price point that's going to work for the clients. And
Mm-hmm.
so what I've figured out is just having them pay for my time. I'm not having them pay for all the assessment tools I'm using.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really
so
generous of you.
I'm I've heard so many people over the years, women especially,
Uh-huh.
complaining about like they just can't, they know that they're autistic or they know they're ADHD and they just can't get an assessment.
Yeah.
The doctors aren't going to give them medications that they need because they're
Yep.
controlled substances, all that stuff.
Yep.
And my heart really goes out to them because my kiddo is, you know, uh, she's neurodiverse in all the ways, and I can't imagine her growing up and being an adult and being like, I don't know myself because
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
was diagnosed.
And because you didn't have access to the care. And that's something else that is hard. When it comes to I think the mental health community has come a long way as far as I shouldn't say the mental health community, the with insurance and stuff covering more mental health benefits and employers are offering, employee assistance programs.
Hmm.
So if you're out there listening and you're like, I cannot afford therapy, it's just not going to happen. I would beg to offer the reframe and just ask the question, can you not afford it or do you not want to do it? Because I had to ask myself that. And that's the only reason I could say that. And, um, but there are certain circumstances where there is just no money to do it. There is
Yeah,
just no money to do it. I've been there too.
yeah,
And sometimes that is a valid and true statement. Like you're doing the
yeah,
best you can with what you have. And there are kind and generous souls out there that can help you find some therapy that is affordable or sliding scales and
yeah,
things like that. But when it comes to ADHD testing and autism testing and all that, I know getting my kids tested, it was thousands and
yeah,
insurance didn't cover it. And it was
yeah,
like, I don't know how we're going to swing this, but we just had to figure it out.
yeah,
And I can't imagine somebody with no resources available to them, how hard it is. I know schools can help and things like that, but just in general, I think mental health access to services are it's tough. And I
hmm,
personally know people who have been in crisis, not just messing around. I'm telling you, in
yeah,
crisis, and they can't find help.
yeah,
So I think we have more work to do. And that's not even what this podcast
absolutely.
was about, but we definitely have more work to do. But, you know, it's something to be said for therapists aren't working for free, people. Like they have lives
You
and,
know,
and things to do.
I can't speak for all therapists, but for myself, if I could, I totally
Right,
would.
right.
Like it's something that I know people need. It's something that I personally have,
Mm-hmm.
I've had to go to therapy and learn all the things and do all the stuff for myself, and I see how valuable it is and how much it could change someone's life.
Yeah.
Um, if I could do it for free, I totally
Yep.
would. Once I become like a bajillionaire,
Right. That's what I say.
Taylor Swift is gonna like do some pixie dust and give me some monies, and then everyone gets free therapy from me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
until then, I do use a sliding scale, so it does make it a little bit more affordable. And the client really, unless they're really like having a really serious issue, I let them choose. Like, do you want to do weekly? Do you want to do
Yeah.
bi-weekly? Do you want to do monthly? Like, what can
Yeah.
you afford?
Yeah.
Something's better than nothing.
Yep. And that can change too. And I know there's a lot of online things too, but with the, not that much good came from COVID, but what did come was a lot more people being able to do virtual. So now we have,
Hmm.
if you have a phone, you can pretty much do a virtual appointment. And I love that you do those. And I hope that some of the listeners today will consider seeing you as a therapist, because I think that you have something real special and you have a spark that a lot of people don't have, I think. So I think that's
Oh,
really
thanks.
beautiful. Yeah. And the fact that you just sang with me in the beginning, I mean, that you're setting the bar high for yourself. So we're going to need some voice activation every session. Okay. Thanks, Victoria.
Absolutely.
um,
You know what? I am totally here for that. I vocal stim all the time anyway,
it's a thing.
so
It is a
you
thing.
know,
My family, for those of you that don't know what vocal stimming is, you're about to find out. So, being ADHD and diagnosed as a 40 something year old, so many things make sense now.
yeah.
and and my family is like, they're so used to the vocal stimming that no one blinks when I am running through the house, literally just random sounds, random songs, random. I mean, I don't want to demonstrate because it's a little embarrassing, but if you've been to my house, you've probably heard it. So, or if you work with me, my coworkers are constantly shaking their heads like, what is she doing? So, I have to say, it's become so normal in our house that nobody blinks. And sometimes I will take it to the next level just to see if somebody's going to
Yes.
even look up from what they're doing. Nope. So when my kids have friends over, this is just normal for us. I'm doing my thing and it cracks me up when they're like, what is happening right now at your house?
Like you
Your
have
mom
entered
is so
the
weird.
crazy zone here. Yeah.
Your mom
Yeah.
is so weird. So with your vocal stimming, I have to know, do you do it when you're by yourself too?
Girl, yes. So, okay, I'm like a musical theater kid, all right?
Love it.
So it's gonna be like, it's not just vocal stems, but it's full on concerts
Same. Yeah.
in my car. K-pop Demon Hunters is just where it's at right now. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's for me, that's something that I feel like I've always done, and I've never really looked at it in a negative way. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
know why.
Yeah, I never have either.
Um, but it's something that is me, and I love it. And it also helps release
It
anxiety and
does.
like all sorts of stuff.
It does. So I have a thing with, it's not just music and sounds, it's movie quotes too. And I will like string like 15 different movies into one big long something. And like, I don't know, my family does it too. And like, we'll just continue it and it just keeps going. And I don't know, I'm like, I feel so good now. Like, I can't explain it. It's just a
That's
thing.
great.
It's
That is
just a
great.
thing. But it is interesting though, when I'm in my professional, you know, trying to be, you know, this professional. I'm doing this. Like it's still going on inside my head. And I'm doing the
Hmm.
best I can to keep it from coming out. And I've just had to learn how to like control it. And being in the military too, it got me in trouble sometimes because I would
Yeah.
just be, and my dad would always say, does your mouth ever stop moving? I'm like, nope, nope. But I will say in my my zenness trying to work through things and meditate and be calmer, like it's gotten a little bit more manageable. I can control it a little bit better. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely moments for, to practice that mindfulness, let your body calm.
mm-hmm,
There's also
mm-hmm.
moments to just belt out
Yep.
a Broadway tune for
Yes.
no apparent reason.
Yes.
Yes.
My favorite though ever is when I run into a rando stranger in the store or anywhere and our ADHD syncs up and we
Yes.
somehow manage to pull it out the same time or oh, I love it when that happens. And then you just laugh and you don't even have to say anything else about it. You're just like, that was amazing. I don't know this person's name, but they're amazing. Like that doesn't happen that often, but when it does, I'm like so energized by it. It's amazing. Um, I don't know how many times I
Absolutely.
could say amazing, amazing, amazing.
Amazing. Amazing.
Um, so Victoria, now that you have shared a little bit of yourself with us and your skills and your expertise, what do you do personally? Because you are obviously holding space for people and you're hearing things that you are not meant to carry.
hmm
How do you release those and how do you take care of yourself?
Well, probably the one of the biggest things is I have my own therapist, right? So I go and, process things with them. And I think that's important for anyone who is in this profession to have that vulnerability to go and do this for themselves as well. Um, I do lots of like crafty things. So for me, like being able to, crochet, paint. I've been getting into painting a lot lately. Music, really all of these like creative things that feel very genuine and authentic for me. That's a way that I like to either express myself, get something off my chest, you know, and then those are probably the biggest ones. Spending time with my family and prioritizing my family, making sure that I have, certain times of the day that I'm not on call, I'm
Yeah,
not reachable, really. Um, yeah, those are probably the biggest ones for me is therapy, the arts, and my family.
that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, um, at the end of every episode, we kind of do a little release or an exercise just to help our listeners learn how to let go of things that no longer serve them and that they weren't meant to carry. Would you be comfortable leading us through something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned the body scan earlier, and so it would make sense for me to, teach that
Wonderful.
to anyone listening. Um, so as we go through this, I may prompt the listeners to, maybe picture a color or, something else if they can't identify what they're feeling. Really not asking for them to identify emotions at this point. So everyone can just kind of take in a slow, deep breath. You can close your eyes or you can keep your eyes open. It's up to you. And I want you to just get in a comfortable position. Let your body be calm, still. If you're laying down, you can just let your head rest. If you're sitting up, maybe, you can even let it rest on the back of your seat. Just get your body to as calm and relaxed as you can get. And I want you to start with the top of your head. You're going to just scan the top of your head, the back of your head, your face, and just notice if there's tension. So are you squinting? Are your lips pursed? If you notice any tension, you can just give your brain a reminder to release. Let those muscles go to a deeper state of relaxation. If they tighten back up, that's okay. There's no shame in that. Just remind it it's okay, it's safe. It can release. I think for this exercise, maybe just picture a calming color coming over the top of your head. And now scan maybe your neck, your shoulders, your chest. Take notice of what's there. Do you feel tightness or tension? Is there pressure? If you notice any of those things, give your body permission to release it. You can open your chest up a little wider if you feel. I want you to imagine that you have maybe a weighted pillow on your chest. So it's not too heavy, it's not going to hurt you, but you could feel the weight of it. And just breathe into that for a minute. And now that weight is lifted, and maybe your chest is full of helium. You can feel it kind of wanting to float up to the sky. Now I want you to notice your arms and your hands. Notice if there's tension, if there's any fidgeting. Maybe even just, open and close your hands a couple times and then let them relax. Notice that calming color coming over your arms and your hands, your chest, tummy. Remind your body that it's safe. Notice if there's any positive sensations that come up. What does it feel like for some of those muscles to go into a deeper state of relaxation? Give yourself permission to enjoy those positive feelings. Now we're going to scan your legs, your hips, your feet. Notice what's there. Wiggle your toes a little bit. I want you to imagine that your legs and your feet are maybe made of metal. So they're super heavy. You can feel the heft of it. Breathe into that for just a minute. Now they're no longer made of metal, but they're light as a feather. You can see that calming color coming down into your legs, into your toes. Now I want you to scan from the top of your head all the way down to your toes. Notice if anything is tightened back up. If it has, that's okay. Just give it permission to release. And open your eyes once you're ready. And that's it. See, I can get real serious when I want.
That was so peaceful. I think I need a nap now. That was beautiful. Thank you. What a
Good.
gift you are. If there's anything, one last thing you want to leave our listeners with, the floor is yours.
Oh, the pressure. I think I just want to say that, like, anyone out there who has experienced something, you know, traumatic or just significant in their life that's left them feeling, not their best, they are worth getting help. They're worth it. They are enough. Even if they don't believe it, they are enough, and it's not their fault.
Powerful. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you so much.
I hope you'll come back sometime.
Absolutely. We can
Okay.
sing some more together.
Deal. Thank you for being here. If this conversation brought up difficult feelings, please take care of yourself in whatever way you need. I welcome you to carry forward what feels steady and release what isn't yours to hold. If additional support would feel helpful, consider reaching out to a trusted friend, a professional, or a resource in your community. Healing is not a straight line, and you do not have to journey this alone. If this space has been meaningful for you, you're welcome to reach out. And if listening quietly is what you need right now, that's enough. You're right where you're supposed to be. Thank you for witnessing with me today. And until next time, remember that you are loved and worthy of being witnessed.